With Oppo having recently launched its latest foldable, the Find N6, which is all-round excellent, I was curious to see how it compared with the mainstream alternative, Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 7. Are the more pixel-packed camera sensors actually better? Does the bigger battery really help? And does having only 7 cores in its processor make any difference? I'm Cam Bunton, this is Trusted Reviews, and in this video I'm going to answer all those questions and more. And by the way, while you're here, if you do like the video, please do leave a thumbs up, subscribe and tap that notification bell. Thanks a lot. Now, one thing I really like about the foldable phone landscape is that every company seems to have its own twist on design, build, shaping and materials. Looking at the Samsung next to the Oppo from pretty much any angle, you're not going to confuse the two at all. Samsung's much tighter, almost right-angled corners in the frame and the display make it visually quite distinct from the Oppo. The Find N6 takes a different approach with softer angles and rounder corners in the display, which jar a little bit with the right-angled sides near the hinge. From that point of view, it's clear Samsung has made better use of that space. From my own experience though, from a design and build perspective, I'd say that's the only thing Samsung might have going for it over the Oppo. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but it's just to say the Find N6 has a lot going for it in the build and design stakes. One very minor thing that might not bother you at all is that because of the camera design being off-center and protruding quite far on the Samsung, the Z Fold is very wobbly when you put it on its back. The Oppo is much more stable. In fact, in general, the Oppo feels more stable and more durable. And it's little things like the feeling of the hinge when you open it, it's nice and smooth. The shaping of the edges being more comfortable in the hand because of the rounded corners and more generous chamfering. And that also means to me it feels the easiest to open. I'll talk more about the displays in a bit, but Oppo's hinge design also plays a part in how the crease on the display looks. Samsung does deserve some credit for making the Z Fold 7's crease less obvious than any of the previous models, but Oppo's is on another level. You can still see Samsung's most of the time, where Oppo's you actively have to look for it in the right reflection. It's far less noticeable visually and to the touch. And on that note, the hinge on my Samsung unit has never opened completely flat. Oppo doesn't have that problem. So in all the ways that matter, I'd say the Oppo is just that bit more refined and possibly more durable too. With a hinge that's claimed to last 1 million folds and dual IP58 and 59 rating that's higher than Samsung's single IP48 rating, means the Oppo phone should also be more impervious to water or dust getting inside. Samsung's does appear thinner than Oppo's, but if you look at the spec sheets, they both claim the same thinness, both open or shut. Samsung's is ever so slightly lighter too, but not enough to make a massive difference, and given how much Oppo has packed in here, I'm more impressed by Oppo managing to keep its weight comfortably lower than the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. But let's move on to the good stuff. So onto displays, and I've mentioned the crease already. There is one other little trick the Oppo has that sadly I've not been able to test, but both front and main internal displays support stylus input. Samsung almost infamously removed S Pen support for the main screen last year, saying it would mean they wouldn't be able to add the durable titanium base layer or would cause the phone to be thicker, but Oppo's just gone and done it anyway, in a device that's not any thicker and has a much bigger battery. As for other display considerations, both the cover screen and internal display are larger on the Oppo than on the Samsung. They also happen to be slightly more pixel dense, so slightly sharper too, otherwise they share a lot of similarities. Both have refresh rates up to 120Hz and can reach peak brightness levels above 2000 nits on the internal display. We can talk specs all day, but there's one thing not mentioned on the spec sheet which I think makes more of a difference, and one that unsurprisingly pushes me further in favour of the Oppo phone. The first one of those is reflections. Open the internal display and the Oppo is far better at cutting out glare and bright light reflections than Samsung's screen protection is. That matters outdoors in bright sunlight, but also means the screen brightness doesn't need to be pushed high to counteract bright reflections, so it means you should save some battery too. The second is the aspect ratio of the cover screen. Samsung's is quite narrow, and while Oppo's is hardly the widest around, it's just wide enough that I didn't feel my thumbs would trip over themselves trying to reply to messages quickly. Samsung has more of that cramped, narrow feel. Software, of course, plays a big part in these folding phones. And they both have their advantages and things they do differently to the other one. When you have that big canvas on the inside, you have to make the most of it, and both have benefits. With Samsung's, you can effectively turn the bottom half of the display into a trackpad whenever you fold the screen upwards in any app. Oppo, however, has a really flexible multitasking full screen system, where you can have up to 4 resizable windows open on the home screen a bit like a desktop, or you can use the split screen mode for having 2 or 3 of them side by side in full screen. So I think the Samsung software makes better use of the display when it's partially folded. Oppo makes better use of it when it comes to multitasking with the screen open. Okay, so cameras are hardly a strong point for folding smartphones, even phones that cost comfortably over $1,000. They're less of a problem than they used to be, but when you don't have a lot of space to work with, you can't put the biggest sensors and lens makeup systems around in the back of them. There just isn't room. Now, both of these phones have triple camera systems on the back, and the makeup is interesting. Samsung has the bigger main sensor, but the smaller telephoto zoom sensor. It also has a lower pixel count on the ultra-wide and telephoto sensors than the Oppo has on its own equivalents. And that matters when you start zooming further than the 3 times optical equivalent range, because when you start cropping into the sensor, Samsung's image quality starts to fall away pretty rapidly. Before I took a look at the results side by side, I was expecting that I'd definitely prefer all the Oppo photos. But the truth is, I didn't always. At least not for every image in every situation. I think part of that is down more to Oppo's processing. Even in its more muted, default natural setting, it cranks up the contrast and saturation to make an image that's definitely vibrant, but also less realistic. That's mostly personal preference though. Samsung's primary camera is slightly better than Oppo's in terms of delivering a clear, sharp image with natural textures and detail. It also produces clearer pictures at nighttime when the light levels drop, and it relies on the night mode algorithm to keep the shutter open longer and get rid of motion blur. Still, that's much of a muchness. The bigger weakness on the Oppo is the ultra-wide camera. It's better than last time, and it's fine in the daytime most of the time, but I did find the odd occasion where it struggled to focus and delivered a blurry image. And at nighttime it was nowhere near as strong as the main camera, where Samsung's were a more consistent feel across the board. Despite that, there's one reason why I prefer taking photos with the Oppo over the Samsung, and it all has to do with that telephoto lens. It's really good for taking macro-like photos of objects that are fairly close to the camera. It more reliably focused on that object, captured it and delivered a sharp photo with some tasty background blur in the mix too. Plus, when you start zooming into faraway scenes, at least in the daytime, it still looks pretty sharp at 5 times and 10 times zoom, where the image quality and detail fall away quickly on the Samsung as soon as you get to the 5 times mark. Sadly, a weakness of going with a 10 megapixel sensor instead of the 50 megapixel you get on the Oppo. At nighttime, however, again, it's not the best. Often not clear and sharp and showing slightly different colors to the main camera. So on balance, I think Samsung edges it in terms of consistency in both day and the night across all 3 lenses. And it was similar when I was recording video. Samsung's appeared to have more effective stabilization while on the move and didn't crank the contrast and saturation up so high in the end processed result. Neither is perfect or a match for the best slab phone cameras, but apart from the zoom shots and portraits, I suggest Samsung has a stronger camera system overall. Although I would say the selfie camera on the front of the Oppo is stronger than the selfie camera on the Samsung, as is the selfie camera on the internal display. What's interesting from a performance perspective is that even though on paper the Oppo having the next generation Snapdragon chipset should mean much better all-round performance, the details of that exact chipset build mean the jump isn't gigantic. Instead of having the full fat version of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5, it's gone with one that has 1 fewer cores. So if you did happen to run the 2 phones through graphics, CPU or AI benchmarks, you'd find the Oppo would outscore the Samsung in some instances, but not in others. At least particularly in graphics, but not by a huge margin. And in fact, because it only has 7 cores instead of 8, I sometimes found it scored lower than the Samsung. Now I wouldn't say it's something that was easy to spot in everyday use. Both phones feel capable of handling pretty much anything, so I wouldn't make a purchasing decision based on this. What I do feel Oppo needs to work on or tighten up slightly is that optimization around when you tap and interact with the screen and the instant feel of feedback. Doing things like typing quickly on the keyboard, it felt faster and more responsive on the Samsung, but that's more a software thing than a power thing. As for battery life, there's no competition. Oftentimes, when you compare specs, the difference isn't big enough that you can tell immediately that there's going to be a difference, but in this case, you can. When you see one phone has a 4,400 mAh capacity and its competitor has 6,000, there's only one way that's going to end. Now for me, being a pretty light user who rarely tops 2 or 3 hours of screen time in a day, getting to the end of the day isn't a challenge on either phone. But my colleague Lewis is a very heavy user, uses his phone for absolutely everything, and so we found with the Z Fold 7 it often needed a battery pack to ensure he'd get through a full day. And even though it was a bit of a push, the Oppo never needed one. There was the odd day where it would finish with 10 or 20% left, and that was on his heaviest days. And if it's his heaviest days, it's probably going to match your heaviest days too. So unless you absolutely rinse your phone battery every day, the Oppo should get you from morning to bedtime. The Samsung might not. And thanks to its 80-watt wired charging abilities, the Oppo doesn't take any extra time to fill up compared to Samsung's smaller battery either. So in the end, the obvious choice to me, at least comparing all the aspects of the phone, is the Oppo. It's got the better design, the better displays, the longer battery life, and in the areas where you could arguably say the Samsung is better, it's not so much better that it makes it worth going with the Z Fold. There is a problem with the Oppo though. In most markets, unless you import it, you're going to find it very hard to get your hands on one. Oppo only has plans to launch this phone in some Asian markets, in Australia and in New Zealand. Importing obviously comes with risks when it comes to local support and warranty, and so in good conscience it's not an easy device to recommend for most people watching this video. Still, it's clearly the better all-round phone. It's just a shame you can't buy one easily. But let me know what you think though. Have you already taken the risk and imported one, or are you going with the safer choice from Samsung? Let me know in the comments, or you can shout at me on Threads. I'm at CamBunton over there. If you did like this video, please do leave a thumbs up, subscribe and tap that notification bell, and I'll see you again in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.